What impact have you seen on classroom after introducing this methods here?
So as a teacher, I was only able to inspire 60 students maybe at a time, and now there are thousands in number.
Research highlights that reflective practice boosts long-term student engagement.
Many people thought that it's a bad idea because I am from a technical background and I was going for a totally non-technical thing. But for me, it's nothing like technical and non-technical. It's very good as long as you are making some difference.
Let's welcome Dr. Swasti Patel. So, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you.
You began your journey as a researcher in machine learning and remote sensing. Now you are shaping academic leadership at Parul University. So, what was the turning point that made you transit from technical research to leading people and faculty development?
So see, let me first give the reason in one sentence if I could put it. I believe that impact will multiply tenfold if you can empower others. So what you said that I transitioned, so which is not entirely true. I have not left my research behind. I have just expanded my circle of influence. So, like before joining CHRD, I was working as an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and I always thought after taking lectures that what if I could help more students? Because when you are a teacher, you have certain limitations, like you can only, influence or you can inspire certain students at a time only, let's say 60, right? So, which is the strength of the class. Now, what if I could do the same for my fellow teachers, and then they can in turn change that, or they can transform the classroom perspective entirely. So, I got an opportunity to work as a senior manager in CHRD before 2 years, and that was my, turning point wherein, or you can say my motivation that let me help my teachers, because see, lot of teachers in university are very good at what they do. They may be very good in content delivery, they may be good in their subject knowledge. But when it comes to maybe translating that knowledge to the students, they exactly don't know what is to be done. So that is where, my role comes into picture, that let me guide them, let me help them. Because ultimately students are, the strength of the university, right? We are here because they are here. So their learning experience has to, be outstanding. Now, if I go to person, they may or they may not listen to me. Ki, ma'am, like what is she saying? But when you are at a certain position, people will listen to you. Right, because then definitely you have proven yourself and you are at a place where you are right now. So again, talking about expanding my circle of influence, that was the main idea behind it. But overall, normally what we do research and everything. But I just changed my research domain from solving maybe technical issues to research into people, pedagogy and leadership. So, interestingly, when I was into that transition phase, many people thought that, it's a bad idea because I am from a technical background and I was going for a totally non-technical thing. But for me, it's nothing like technical and non-technical. It's very good as long as you are making some difference to the society. So when I see my trained teachers doing phenomenal in the class, it makes me very happy, and I feel that, as a teacher, I was only able to inspire, 60 students maybe at a time, and now there are thousands in number. So that is how I, changed.
Consist.
Very
well said. Okay, on studies on teacher training suggests that workshop alone rarely changes classroom practice. At Parul University, what system or feedback loops you have built to ensure that training that translate into improved teaching and better learning outcome for students?
So see, let me put it this way. Any training without follow-up would just become like an event.
Agreed.
Right?
Yes.
Because faculties would come, we'll train them and they'll just go. And then we never know what happened of the teachings that we did, right? During those maybe 2-3 hours. Now, to maybe make sure that whatever trainings I have given has had an impact, I encourage my teachers to apply one training or one skill at a time, right? So, it's like taking baby steps, because overnight you cannot achieve everything.
Yes.
So, it's like taking baby steps rather than taking a giant leap and not knowing where you're going to land. So, we encourage them to apply one technique in the classroom rather than going for everything that we have taught. And then, slowly it could be, we could start with a very simple thing like asking inquiry-based questions and making them a part of, as complex as outcome-based education. So there's a whole spectrum of the trainings that we do. And based on their receptivity, we give them encouragements ki you do this and you do that. That is one part. Second is we have a very intricate feedback system. We take feedbacks on several levels because we cannot be everywhere, right? So we take feedback in 3 levels. The first is we take feedbacks of the students.
Yes.
Right? Then we take feedbacks of their peers, maybe some senior faculty or maybe heads, and then comes the reporting authority. Right? And of course we have academic directors as well. So that helps us to get a data of how that faculty is actually performing. So in a way we get an insight that whether the things are working for them or not. And if they need fewer sessions, like more repetitive sessions, then also we can plan accordingly. And of course we have something called as micro teaching. Okay, so in micro teaching what happens is a teacher will come and we have a very controlled setup. In that setup we ask the teachers to give demonstration for the subject that they are teaching, similarly what they would do in the class. So it's just that the students will not be there, we'll be there, and they'll be giving us the demo. And we have 11 different parameters which has been given by the management, and based on those 11 parameters we give them a very constructive feedback. And this also helps them to grow. And what happens is, if we do that in the classroom which is full of students, then it becomes very chaotic to pause the teacher and then maybe do a SWOT analysis of them. So we call them in a very controlled atmosphere and we give them a very constructive feedback. So they are also very receptive at that time.
Yes.
Because then that defensive guard is let down. Because in front of students they have that that image and that rapport to maintain, but over there they're very gullible and they're very open to I must say, like all the faculties who have given micro teaching, every one of them is very open to the feedback that we give, and we've also seen them apply that feedback. So that is second thing. And the third thing that I personally like to do is post training I organize casual reflection sessions wherein faculty is free to come and they have been, they get an open floor and they share with their colleagues what worked and what didn't work for them. So indirectly it's a feedback to me also, that whatever trainings I gave and whatever maybe I taught them, could I make it much better? So with that open-ended discussion, I also get some insights for my trainings as well, because feedback does not have to be always for teachers, it's for everyone. And see, feedback can be taken negatively or constructively. Now it's up to the individual. And I personally like if someone gives me a very constructive feedback, and because see, teachers are not going to tell me ki this is not something we like or this is something we like, because then there's there's a boundary being established. But when they are discussing with one another, and I just observe and I take the points that maybe for the next batch this is something that I can maybe eliminate or something that I can add.
Yes.
So this is how I make sure that the training reaches its full impact.
It's very well put. Okay, so Harvard study calls empathy is one of the strongest predictors for leadership success. With Parul University's scale of training of hundreds faculty at once, how do you bring empathy into designing programs that still feels human and that still feels connected?
So, see, empathy is at the heart of everything we do.
Yes.
Because we are into training, right? And training is very different from teaching. Training is basically you establish a connection with your participant, right? So, very rightly said by Howard, teachers must feel empathetic towards their students.
Yes.
But that will not come overnight, right? They must first of all feel like we are empathetic towards themselves, and then only they'll be able to translate that feeling towards their students. Now, how do I achieve that? It's a very interesting question. See, I am basically looking after inductions of the new staff, right? And I take short induction programs on every Wednesdays. Now, what happens in that is that we call the faculties who have recently joined the university, let's say within 30 days of the joining, and we make them aware about the basics or the policies which every newcomer should know. But for that also we can go two ways, right? One is you just give them that ye karna hai and kar lo ye, right? But the other way that I prefer is, first of all, I invite them personally. I drop in a personalized text message to them, sending the registration link and everything, welcoming them to the university. And then once they come for the session, I make sure that they feel a part of the PU family.
Yes.
So what happens is, because see, Parul is huge, right? And for a newcomer to at least figure out, what is where, can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes.
Yes.
So I make sure, because even I have faced such challenges when I had joined the university. So I always feel that, I did not had someone to help me, to look up to, call in any time and say that, I'm not finding this place, could you help me? So I always felt that if I get an opportunity, I will make sure that any faculty, doesn't matter the number of experience he has or she has had in the previous institute, I will make sure that they feel warmth in the university. And if they feel that, then of course they are going to translate it to their students in the classrooms, and it will make Parul as a more cohesive work environment. Yeah.
Yes.
So
That's why I say be here, be vibrant.
be here, be vibrant. Yeah.
Okay, so you have introduced a reflective teaching and inquiry-based learning as a part of Parul University's faculty development. Research highlights that reflective practice boosts long-term student engagement. What impact have you seen on classroom after introducing these methods here?
So first of all, let me clarify what do you mean by reflective practices. Okay, so reflection is something that you do once an event has bygone. So if I talk about classrooms, let's say I took a lecture of software engineering, right? And after 60 minutes of my lecture, I go out of the class and I think that what could I have done better?
Yes.
Was I able to, generate curiosity amongst the students, or were my students able to understand what I was trying to explain it to them, right? So that is all about reflection. And inquiry-based learning means students themselves inquire. They have that, curiosity. We, as a teacher, we try to, ignite that spark of curiosity in their mind, which will enable them, or which will facilitate them to ask more questions. And of course, every teacher watching this will agree with me that you always like interactive classrooms, right? So, and interaction will come only by questioning.
Yes.
So, interestingly, what happened was one of the faculty, after attending this reflective session, she restructured her entire lesson plan, and she realized that she was speaking 80% of the time. and students were just passive listeners in her lectures. Now what happened was, after deliberate revisions of the lesson planning, she got an overwhelming response. Like, students started talking, they started debating, they even started to challenge her ideas. So students felt very engaged.
Yes.
And for teacher also it is very fulfilling, because there is genuine learning happening in the classroom. What more could a teacher want,
Yes.
right? So, and she was very happy, and I'm very happy to share her story with me. You know, she'll be knowing कि मैं उसकी बात कर रही हूँ. So that is because, and see, this shift is very powerful. Students these days are very tech savvy. They have all the tools in their hands, and they don't need teachers as such, because whatever we are teaching is already available online. So as a teacher, what you can do? You can do these small things which make them feel more valued and more relevant in today's era. So this is why we introduced this module. Yeah. So, learning should become more, as I said, be here, be vibrant. But more than that, it should become active and participatory. The classroom should be like that.
Then only it will be interesting
Yeah.
enough for all the students to learn. And I hope this is changing.
Yeah. I also hope that everyone is applying that in their classrooms.
Okay. So last question is, looking ahead, if you had to define ideal Parul University faculty member of 2030, someone ready for AI-driven learning, global classroom, and diverse student needs, what qualities would you highlight, and how you working to cultivate them today?
See, if I had to envision faculty of Parul University in 2030, I would say they would possess 4 skills, like a balance of 4 skills or 4 qualities. One should be tech savvy with human-centered functioning. Because see, we are in a technological revolution kind of an era wherein every day something new is coming. So you have to be updated as a faculty. But however, at the end of the day, students will look for a teacher who inspires them, who connects with them, and who listens to them. So for that, they will need teacher. Other things, AI is more than sufficient to handle.
Yes.
But you need a teacher with human-centered functioning. Second is he or she should be a reflection practitioner. Okay. Someone who just takes the class and comes out focusing on just completing the syllabus and content delivery is not going to be sufficient.
Yes.
Right? Faculty should be adaptive enough to think and rethink again and again, how can I make my classroom experiences better for the students? How can I deliver this in a better manner? Or what tools should I use to understand or to make the understanding deeper with that subject? So that is second thing. Third thing is, being a faculty of Parul, he or she should have a global inclusive mindset.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of students from foreign nation countries and we are growing forward, right? And this year maybe we'll have more countries aligned with us. And also, if I talk about Indian states as well, so a lot of students are from outside of the Gujarat. So they should have an inclusive mindset, they should have a conducive environment, because diversity is something that we thrive on, right?
Agreed.
So he should have, he should not have that cultural blockage. That should not be the case. He should be open to, cultural diversity and multi-linguistic classrooms.
Yes.
So that is there. And last would be, he should have open mindset to the change. Because again, I said we are evolving very fast.
Yes.
And someone who's very rigid for the change, it's going to be very difficult for them to work. So you should have an open mindset, open to new changes. And ultimately, what we want at CHRD is that we should, devise a continuous cycle of improvement, wherein a faculty would practice, reflect and improve. So that is my envision for 2030.
Thank you so much. It was very insightful session. I'm sure whosoever is watching will learn a lot from you, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for watching.